Questions from before? Okay.
What's next?
I have no idea. All right, I guess in the middle I'll just go over what I was discussing. Your contracts, your papers. Back.
I think you're running out of ink. What?
Can you write darker? Yeah.
Separate form.
You go to Walmart.
Okay. These are basically the front and back of the papers. When you do these things, accepted for honor, pay the overdraft creditors.
Accepted for honor, paid to the order of the U.S. Treasury.
Yeah,
Without recourse.
yeah, sign the stamp without recourse.
Now, are you signing over the stamp or not?
Signing over the stamp.
That's what. Thank you,
Canceling
sir.
out
That's
the stamp.
canceling it.
Thank you, sir.
But we did
Alright.
pay the order to the treasury without recourse and then also did it on the stamp.
The reason you do this is because you don't have recourse to the instrument, but the United States does. They bought everything. So this is what you're doing, you're just assigning an interest. This right here creates an assignment of interest, which is the basis of the contract. And this is where you're accepting interest. And this is where you're transferring.
Is it in red?
A little louder, Boris.
I did it in red. Okay. You want to know what color ink?
You accept the interest, you transfer the interest, now you've got a contract. That's where it's all done. It's that simple. You don't need anything spectacular in this thing. Because when they're doing that, calling you name, well, it's number, that's actually an executive level contract.
That Lou's going to be busy.
Yeah.
So it's name and SS number, executor,
Hold on.
level contract.
All right, name and social security number when they're put together. Remember, this comes from Vital Stats. This comes from Hague. All right, the name is registered as a result of Vital Statistics. That's an executive level branch government thing, function. Social security number is also part of the executive level branch of Social Security Administration. Comes underneath it, and it's a result of the Hague 4355. 43 and 55. Yeah. So you have an executive level contract of which you're enforcing now. So the United States fulfills its obligations.
Oh, obligation, which is an international obligation.
And then you mail that to the U.S.
Yep.
Treasury.
And that's it, and there's the simplicity of it.
And then who do you send it to?
You
And
send it to the head of the Treasury, and then you CC whoever else made the claim.
register mail
You can do registered mail for $1.
for dollar value.
You just put a dollar value on it, it evokes the insurance of $25,000. That's the only reason you do it.
Do we put the
Excuse me.
social on there? Do we put the social on there?
No,
No, no.
this is all done in fulfillment. I don't care what the contract, I don't care what it is. It could be contempt, it could be anything. It's all the same.
Underneath the word obligations, you have a, is that a 1 or what is that?
Equal.
Oh,
Equals.
equals.
That's just all equal stuff.
Okay.
And you mail the.
And what does it say under that equals?
Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10.
Because we did stamp duty. There's a video on YouTube about stamp duty,
Okay.
and we did that on bills.
Yeah.
Now, when I sent it registered mail, I put Mr. Lou on where it came from and where it's going, so it doesn't come back to you. It stays right at his, when they go to mail it back to you, it goes right back to him.
Oh, never thought
I'm
about
going
that.
to keep it in their hands because you're doing what's required of you under the Constitution and the contract. This is the contract with the birth certificate, Social Security number. There's no need to be afraid of it if you understand its purpose. Purpose wasn't to enslave you. Purpose was to free you. But if you're going to sit there and claim ownership of it, then it will enslave you because you're making claim to a usufruct. Remember, this is the beneficiary of this whole shit is the state, not you. It's the intentional beneficiary is the state. They intended to benefit from this. In other words, they intended to receive something from it. And they intended to receive equitable interest or properties or other stuff that they could use then in commerce and liquidate them to pay their bills. So if you're out there using it and you're not giving anything back, now you know why the tax comes due on you. The usufruct comes back because you're the one who claimed the benefits of ownership. You claimed ownership of the name. You decided not to give anything back. You didn't make the effort to do it. You didn't, whatever you were doing. You went and argued with them. You went and fought, said, that's not me, that's not my house, I'm not this, I'm not that.
Oops.
Now even what I do in court, when I ask them about the name, that's still argument. I wonder what authority you're using to identify me by the name. I've used that before, and that's basically how this all started in the courts. Nobody ever answered me, so this is my why. Why did nobody ever answer me? Now I know. There is no authority to use that name for personal identification. It was never supposed to be used for that purpose. It was supposed to be used strictly for accounting purposes of what you're out here doing. That's its sole job. You put a picture to that thing, it no more identifies you as if I put a picture on a tree to say that tree was me. It doesn't work that way. You cannot put two non-identifying documents together and shit out a third identifying document.
Immaculate conception.
Right? Even the attorneys can't even present any evidence of that one to me.
Now, you're making reference to the Hague, Article 43 and Article 55.
43 is public order and safety,
Yeah.
and 55 is the administration and use of fraud. And the reason why it's 55 is because when they come in and do exercise of state authority, they took on all the characteristics of a state. And in that, Hague applies to them. Once they took your property under their possession and started executing it, they took on all the liabilities of the state because they became the state.
Also Pee Wee Cole.
And also, if you recall, they chose to intervene by taking possession and operating control. Thus became proprietor in the absence of contrary agreement, became entitled to the benefits and subject to the liabilities, and I'm not aware of any contrary agreement. My agreement is the United States is the beneficiary of everything I do in this thing, and adherence to this contract, keeping with duties of international law, so I can ensure the United States fulfill its duties. So my rights and my properties and my connections to my Creator are not altered. And they're always in place, they're always insured, and they're always in protection.
Anybody that tries to throw you off of this is
A deceiver.
It's a violation of an implied contract. It's a deceiver.
It's a
An
tort.
obligation to contract. They've created by their actions an obligation to perform, and their failure to do so now is failure to follow.
All right, now,
contract.
they're
Obligation to
all right,
contract.
and now, if they go, well, we're going to take this off book, off calendar, off record, off this, off that, off blah, 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 blah. What they're saying is, it's private. Now Article 46 of the Labor Code comes in because they took administration of a public estate and they went private with it for profit and gain without any claim from the state.
So what do we
Which
put in
now
for that
means-
though?
Which now means they're now engaged in a private contract under tort of usufruct with you. And the United States is going to protect that contract because it has a duty under international law to protect the unalienable right of contract.
They lost their immunity.
If it's not going to allow contracts to have weight in its country, the United States becomes what? Ill repute. That's why they got rid of the Articles of Confederation and put the Constitution in there. That's why the trade court exists. So the United States is forced into its obligations without remorse. Because this nation is full of scoundrels.
Where'd you get that idea?
All the people who came over here were basically scoundrels. They're looking to get away from some old paradigm of thought. They're looking to hide. They're hiding assets. They're following the laws of the pirates, hiding assets. That's what all your asset protection laws are. They're a pirate. They're the law of the pirate, they're the law of the thief. You are hiding stuff from the United States after I bought it and avoiding your tax, and avoiding taxes trying to do it. All right?
Now they're the
Makes
pirates.
you the skull and crossbones, the pirate. And what they do is they come and defend their interests from piracies.
Fugitive from tax.
But
Okay, if they've gone,
Fugitive from tax.
so if they've gone private, Boris, like we talked, on the BK, they're going private. So what was it for? So what do we put in?
Mandatory
you
judicial.
do a mandatory judicial notice on them and you give the judge instructions on what you want done.
Now you're coming in from
You don't
above,
ask
not
these guys
below.
for permission. You don't write them letters saying, oh, please do this and please do that. Hell no.
I pray this court.
If you're gonna enforce your contract, enforce your damn contract. Do not sit there and write letter after letter after letter to a brick wall who's not gonna listen to you. The second they breach this contract, your counterclaim or any matter is breach of contract under international law. It's an international contract they're breaching. This is a purchase of the United States of interest of a foreign nation. Not of its citizens, of a foreigner. And they extended you hospitality. It's international law. Now you go back to what we just discussed in Hamden, and now anybody who tries to breach this is trying to counterfeit a fucking contract issued by you, the bank, making it a counterfeit security, making it a violation of law of nations, and now you can send the lynch mob out of it.
Unjust enrichment.
Yeah.
To the nth degree.
I mean, this is the basic core line of every single matter. Every single court case. All boiled down to one action. And when you understand, you can get it down to one letter. The mandatory to the judge.
Three sentences.
3 words.
One.
Huh?
Use a
One
word.
word. No, one word, use a fraud. But the 3 words when they get the contract is eat a dick.
We'll have to bleep that out when we release.
All right?
No.
That's really what it's about. They're interfering with your contract and trying to force you into another one, and we're allowing it. Stop allowing it. Stop allowing that energy to control you and start redirecting it to where it came from.
Right.
Yes, sir.
All right? This is what it's about. It's about redirection and getting out of the way of energy. So that's what all of this is. It's just energy. Money, evidence of an energy transfer. That came from Rumsfeld. Or one of the guys there.
Now, all these causes are under international law? I mean, obviously, they're in the common law and stuff, too.
Right, but everything's international.
Okay.
Even the common law of the United States is founded on international principle. I mean, all these laws of these are maxims. Everybody follows. The nations have to follow it or they're considered barbarian.
It's common reasoning
Yeah.
is what it really boils down to. It's above common law.
Mhm.
It's common reasoning because
Right.
we have the option to go ahead and operate under divine law, which is basically common reasoning.
Yeah.
Common law was created by the pirates and the corporations to have this guise, this illusion that they're doing something great. Common law is really not anything beneficial to us. This is taking common law and turning it on its head, putting it, inverting it, reverse through a mirror, and they're going like,
Yeah.
Oops.
So they keep trying and trying and trying, and they'll keep contacting, but they have no authority. The only thing they have are guns. Might never makes right, no matter how much suffering you have to do. This is what you defend. This is the sacred honor, a part of the Declaration. This is what they mean. You defend this as if it were your breath, as if you needed it to breathe. Because this is where your inalienable right, your inalienable thing, your collections, your creator, will not be altered. They cannot come in and stop it. Anything they do to try and do that is just forcing you into a servitude of their whim. Someone else's wishes, someone else's servitude, someone else's duties.
it's enticement into slavery.
It is.
Yes.
And internationally, they've stopped that. It's over. It's done.
It's
The
the
war with the
violation.
Father, the war with the Father is over. The state, as we know it, is the representation of the Father on earth. So if your war with Father is over, then it should be evidence with the state, because that's the physical, spiritual manifestation on this plane. Not surrendering your will to the state and all those people and everything else, like I've argued with 1,000 people before. It's a symbolic gesture of a spiritual growth. And you'll understand that now. When the wind blows and interacts with you, it won't be a hot burning wind, it'll be a cool soothing wind that kisses your cheeks. It blows over your forehead, brings dreams to everybody. It's not a destructive force, but you will feel it. You cannot escape it on this plane. There is that entity, and this is the manifestation of it here. This is the will of the Father. This thing exists. If it wasn't the will of the Father, it wouldn't exist at all, in any form whatsoever. But it's the general interaction of everybody else involved and their spiritual connections to each other determines this entity here, the state, because it is a reflection of the hearts of the people, and it always will be, and there's no getting around it.
Great job. I wanted to say something real quick. Enticement into slavery is codified in Title 18. Go look it up. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, this is the basics. Where do we go from here? This is your questions now. We all understand this, huh?
Are you gonna
Why don't we go, why don't we take a look, why don't we take a look at the mandatory units?
Where we start?
This?
Can you repeat all that good morning?
Can you repeat that back page, what it says?
Oh, on the back it says pay to the order of the United States Treasury. You do a $1 stamp on it. You sign over the stamp, and you put real without recourse after your signature.
Would it be beneficial to have a red fox stamp on that stamp location?
Can't even.
Good luck
we use
finding
the
it.
$1 wisdom stamp.
Did you?
Yeah, the one in Rockefeller Center.
Yeah, the Rockefeller. It's sort of like in your eye.
Yeah, that's right.
Wisdom back at you.
Yeah, wisdom back at you.
Now, Boris, you're talking about this for court documents, or you're talking about
Anything.
for bills, the whole ball of wax?
Any resentment.
Because what you're doing is you're just ensuring that it's a United States debt obligation.
See, now you're doing business with the Treasury, you're not trading with the enemy anymore.
Correct.
That's our objection, is do all business with the Treasury, otherwise you're under the trading with the
Right,
enemy.
because the use of fraud you experience is from the Federal Reserve, and that's all the taxes on their money, on their property, for using their property engaging in commerce. And when you buy through them, you buy for them. Because if you have the use of fraud, who has a naked owner?
Question. Let's talk about, let's say, a monthly mortgage payment. There's the front of it and there's the back of it. So the monthly mortgage payment has an amount there. It's a letter, a bunch of numbers. So you would accept it for honor, and then you flip it over and pay it over to the United States Treasury, put that stamp on there with your autograph and without recourse. Now, when you send that to the Treasury, I think there's a little letter that goes along with that, which I think has got 1 or 2 sentences on it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
You can correct me if I'm
Actually,
wrong.
something that goes over it?
Yeah, it's just a,
Let me see if I got a copy. Do you have a copy?
no person shall be held liable in any court for tendering this lawful money, full discharge, instrument, good faith, reliance on 12 U.S.C. 95A Part 2. That's it. That's the whole context of the cover letter. Dear Mr. So-and-so,
Here's your debt, here's something required for you and fulfillment of your contract. I've assigned it over to you for discharge or further obligation.
Say it again, please.
Dear Mr. So-and-so, I've accepted this on behalf of the United States. Here's the transfer order. You may go collect at such and such address. My obligation is done pursuant to 12 U.S.C. 95A.
Now,
Part
if you
two.
do that on a coupon, would you make the coupon for the total amount? Because he's talking about a coupon, I believe.
I never mentioned the word coupon. I said that's the front of a bill, presentment for a mortgage, and that's the back.
That's anything. I don't
Anything
care what it
whatsoever.
is.
If there's a tab on the bottom of this presentment here that's the bill, so what? You keep it all attached.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, you do not.
Do not detach it.
That's
It's the
right.
same thing. Anything you get, any bill you get, you send out to the accountant for payment.
Yeah, if you've got if you've gotten multiple notices from the bank regarding a mortgage, you take the most recent one, or in the case where it's already gone to
Or you ask for a
foreclosure,
payoff amount, that's even better.
or if it's actually
What
gone to
about
foreclosure,
the
you
gas?
send it.
Same thing.
Payoff amount.
They won't shut you off.
Because what happens in the payoff amount is they usually, when you receive it, they give you a forward forward time, it's a future. In other words, if you put the request in on the 1st and you get it back on the 15th, that total payoff payment amount is till the end of the month,
Yeah.
okay, of the Gregorian calendar, okay? So now, in theory, that is good until 3 days after that time, because truth in lending under Regulation Z. So you've got the time frame, the futures of that total payoff plus 3 days, truth in lending, Regulation Z.
Yeah, but it's anything you get in the mail, any bill, any presentment, anything, you guys are sending it to the agent, or the agency for settlement. The agency is a financial institution, right? Therefore, if the agency is accepting this, this becomes a promissory note issued by a financial institution.
Now, we had a discussion earlier about the situation you have with a woman who's got apparently $1 million lien or something they're trying to take her out, or a couple instances. So now, if we were just to focus on what they're sending them, demanding this payment, that's exactly what I would do right there, provided that the woman's done the certification on the birth certificate, send it up to the...
You don't need to do that. You don't need to do any of that stuff.
Oh, okay, you can do this right out of the
You do not need to do anything at all special to do this. This is simple contractual shit.
So
I
now,
can enter any contract I wish, in any capacity I wish, even if they think I'm a name and social security number agent. That's perfect, fine. I'm an agency. I'm a financial institution. I can issue this. You have to accept it. If you don't, we're going to move an international law, we'll liquidate you. You're not too big for that.
now, the pretext of the certification on the birth certificate.
Oh, that right there, when you do the certification through the, you basically take your birth certificate, tell them to authenticate it for Taiwan. The reason you use Taiwan is because it's not a signatory to anything. It's blank.
It's
And
a
you send it up-
republic.
What's that?
It's a republic.
Correct. It's part of, it's actually Republic of China. You send it up to the Secretary of State of your state or whoever authenticates documents. Some people have to go to the Treasury, some people go elsewhere. I don't know what it is in Utah. I know it is in New Jersey. You go to the Department of Revenue and you get them to authenticate it. You tell them you want it done for Taiwan. You get it back. You send it up to the U.S. Department of State. Tell them to authenticate it for Taiwan. What you get back is the original document. For all intents and purposes, is the original because the codes are doing it under. They're doing it under certain codes. When you have this original document, you go in there now. That's my property.
You're the custodian of the record.
I'm the custodian. Well, you're custodian, but you're also the owner of that property. I own this property. I have the original. They are trustees. They may hold legal title and all the other crap, but according to their little procedures and rules, this is just as good as if I had the original. And that's why you do that. Because now you can come in and go, well, this is my property, and I have evidence of my ownership. Where's yours?
Now, on the front sheet that we get back from the United States Department of State, which costs $8 per document, it's not $8 per page, there'll be a statement on there that's under the full faith and credit of the United States of America. You take that over and you put paid to the order of the United States Treasury on it, put your $1 stamp, autograph it without recourse. Now what you're doing is you're starting the inroads to create the Treasury Direct account.
Well,
correct?
when we did that, we put it on a passport application.
Yeah, that makes total
When
sense.
we put that on a passport application, we took the international law I just discussed and we wrote up an affidavit on it and we got it apostilled. We turned the apostille over, did the exact same thing on that. Then we did an affidavit of identity where we just went through and put who we're this and blah, blah, blah. Just a bunch of little things. And then put our picture on it. Got that apostilled and sent that in too with all this. And now we're just waiting to return.
And that went in for a Treasury Direct application.
No, that went for passport
Oh, passport,
application.
okay.
We're accepting.
What was your occupancy?
Oh, yeah, for the occupation, we put nonprofit trust protector. That's our occupation. I am protector of this thing called United States.
Now you're with them, not against them.
And then what we're waiting on now is seeing what's gonna happen. I've also done a FAR registration of the trust I use. The trust I have all set up for an agent registration. So under FAR, all agents and agencies of the United States have to be registered.
Yes.
Okay? So what I have is I have an agency, so I chose to register it under a trust and named that the trustee. So when it goes in and when it all goes through, that'll be the agency and the foreign agent, or the agency and trustee that represents the foreign principal, me, and
Now,
my interest, but I get to go in there and act out of it.
if you were to take and say, instead of it being a trust, if you were to make the claim or statement that it's a body corporate, i.e. a corporation sole.
Okay.
I
Now,
want you to think about that. I want a response from you on that. But,
here's the reason why I said the trust, because that's the way the IRS gave me the EIN number.
yeah.
They put a
Under
TR at the
UA.
end of it. They put a TR at the end of it. I use that.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna go in and start making changes to something just because of it. It's just gonna set up that way. You'll fill out an 8832, 3 classified as foreign entity anyway. You disregard it as separate foreign entity.
Disregarding it, yeah.
And then you also take that 8832 and you have it claim the social security number, as if it was it.
Now, that document you mentioned, the 8832 is a very interesting document because on that application and instructions of it, it lists every country on the planet except for Taiwan and I think North Korea and Iran as being a corporation underneath the Internal Revenue Service.
Correct.
So no matter where you go on the planet, other than those 3 places, it's under the jurisdiction of the Internal Revenue Service.
What are the 3 again?
North Korea, Iran, and Taiwan.
Not Cuba?
Oh, and Cuba.
Now why though? Now why? North Korea, Iran, and Cuba, why? No central bank.
Central bank. Well, you could also clump in there
For right
Syria,
now. For right
Iran, yeah. Well, one of the things that happened within 72 hours of the fall of Libya was the central banks were set up there.
Yes, sir.
And within the same day that they created this coup in Ukraine, that night a crew of 26 Blackwater guys flew into Ukraine and hijacked 42 tons of gold out of Ukraine and flew it into New York. And then they created their own bank, and now of course they're going to get $17 billion in IMF loans, which is ludicrous.
That's right. Take care of each other.
Yeah, it's all commerce. They're just stealing from each other. You know, I mean, that's what they do. They go in and destabilize nations, they rebuild them, and that's where we found all this information in our Iraqi rebuilding manual.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We didn't find this by search, we found it quite by accident. You know, we put peace into war manuals. They said war was peace, so we started putting peace into war manuals, and this world opened up. And we found how Nation Building 101 is in a book on Iraq called Belligerent Occupation or something like that. I have it on the site as well. And there's a step-by-step manual, a rule of how to build Nation 101. The first thing they do is restore public order and safety. The very first action. And the very reason behind it are outlined in there too. There's 3 steps behind it. 1, they do it so the inhabitants can live their lives day to day without interruption. 2, to form an agreement which maximizes the benefit both occupant and benefit and inhabitant.
Occupier.
And 3, so that the occupying forces can remain and be secured in their administration. I have no problem with this. Because it's one word. That's it. They entered into a usufruct. And even in their own military manuals, they define what it means. A usufruct, or one to enjoy a usufruct is said to have a special kind of interest in a property. That's it. And when you look under Florida mortgages 697.02, the mortgages do not attach to the property. Every mortgage is a usufruct. Okay? Because the one who's profiting is not you, it's the bank. They're profiting from something they never purchased. They never gave value for it.
Right.
They are usufruct, and you're an investment contract. All your payments are going to pay investors. They're not going to pay the house. The house has already been paid from the promissory note. Now they're getting you to pay the investors.
You mean the insurance, aren't they?
Insurance, investors,
Or,
whatever you wanna call it.
sorry, the taxes.
You know, I noticed that the Pennsylvania Constitution, it says public property is not taxable. So isn't that all our property is
All public.
Once you
property?
become public.
It's all public property.
Right.
The United States bought it all. It's all public property. And it's just misadministration of all the laws. That's really that's really what's going on. Misadministration, misapplication of the laws in this country.
Well, what they've done is they've laid a construct of this corporate code statute regulation over it, so they can fuel a business enterprise known as the Bar Association, which is actually the secret government. But it's proliferated, like what, in the fictional depiction in the movie Devil's Advocate, when Al Pacino says, we got more people in law school than there are lawyers on the planet.
Yep.
Oh, it's our time. We're coming up, man. Are we negotiating? Always. Right?
What about, what's the relationship here with a loyal title? Is that something that we as a peoples should be working towards?
Somebody's gonna have to explain to me what the hell a allodial title is, because I've never heard a proper definition. What is it? What is a allodial title?
A loyal title and a land patent has to resort back to the Spanish land grants, and it has to be obtained through the Bureau of Land Management in order for that to have its substance. You have to understand something. The United States of America is an English colony. The only one that has really the authority to grant a allodial land patent is the Queen.
No. What is allodial?
Well, what's a allodial?
Yeah, what the hell is it?
Well, it's
I don't care how you get it, I just want to hear what it is.
You have absolute,
It says an absolute title, absolute superior title.
It's
Right.
a paramount priority security interest in the land and all the mineral rights
Right.
for, I think, 400 to 480 meters down. And there's no property taxes, there's no,
Yeah, there's nothing.
no fees for infrastructure improvement or anything like that, no assessment or anything.
Right, of course.
The problem
Peter Griffin
I've
land.
seen, we've done land trusts where we've gone and searched the records for the Bureau of Land Management on California, on Nevada, and we haven't done it on Arizona yet. But David Clarence is working on this stuff. And the BLM people, they're very helpful in it. But for someone, a common layman, to embark upon this, it is rather convoluting. But the simple essence of it is the paramount. It is the paramount title of ownership. You have the right to do with it all, with everything.
nobody has any claim.
But it all boils down to that one word again. Usufruct.
So you're good.
It's kind of like, you know, the allodial title, you think of that episode of Family Guy where Peter found out that his property wasn't on any of the records. in
Victoria.
Pretoria.
Okay.
That's a allodial title.
That's allodial title.
That's he is now a nation, in fact, an independent, his little nation right there.
Okay.
Nobody else has any authority over him. That's what allodial is.
Well, Keith Livingway was proposing to say that by an act of creating your own post and doing the meets and bounds as based upon the Spanish land grant, that you could create the own allodial title, but that his theory has been
Yeah, but you can't get meets and bounds, that's the
defeated.
problem.
I asked one question. Has any court ever granted a allodial title?
You
Why would you
have,
want a
How would
court to
how would the court,
If you go
how
in-
would the
if
court
you're
have
in the
authority?
court- If you're in a court and you claim an allodial title, is any court going to hear it?
they're admiralty
They
courts.
recognize that.
Well, it-
But why would you want it?
If
If
there's a
you've got
contract,
this.
No, well, I'm not talking about this. What I'm talking about is allodial title is not going to give you title to anything,
Right, exactly.
okay? It is not title.
Wait.
This country what does this country belong to? Who's it belong to?
Crown.
Who?
No, what happened?
Indians.
Now, let me
The
explain
surface
this.
No.
states.
Let me
The
explain
earth
this.
belongs
Okay.
to God,
Absolutely, absolutely.
and we have it in usufruct. The only thing you can ever give of yourself is another usufruct.
So what happened is,
That's
okay, the allodial title is nothing but a
It's not title.
declaration of the land patent held by the state. The sovereign state holds the land, and that patent is held by the United States of America for the usufruct. So basically, when you declare that you are the landowner, you're basically saying you are one of the sovereign state that owns the land. And they
That
cannot
makes
tax.
more sense, because BLM.
Yeah,
YouTube, there's a video of BLM up in Utah, and they were talking, and he outlined what happens when a state achieves statehood. What happens when a state comes a state in the United States? Any corporation or any land grant that was on it is lifted so the US government can put a lien on all the inhabitants and other stuff, and then they license it all back out. And they do that to protect the inhabitants and their lands. Because everything operates under the usufruct. So the inhabitants and their lands are always the naked owners. I'm not a man, I'm not a citizen, I'm an inhabitant up on this land. I have a usufruct granted to me from nature, not by the state. I'm granted from God. I have use of this name. I cannot destroy this earth. It isn't a possibility.
You gotta go
For
back
man,
to zero.
he can make this earth a living hell for himself. He can't destroy it.
We're a steward. We're just a
Nature
steward.
will reclaim this earth when man's long gone.
I just got the definition on Wikipedia. Allodial title constitutes ownership of real property that is independent of any superior landlord. Historically, allodial title was sometimes used, to distinguish ownership of land without feudal duties from ownership by feudal tenure, which restricted alienation and burdened land with the, and I gotta go to the other page. So, because I had read like in South Carolina, like in the 1820s or something, it was customary for people to have the allodial title. I don't know.
That
if
was
that's-
1820. Because before the United States had a problem paying their debts. Now they have a problem, and all the states are part of it. And the United States has a lien on all those lands as part of its statehood to protect those properties.
Okay, here it says,
So now all the titles have been seized by them.
Here it says-
Certificates, because that's all there's left.
it says land ownership by occupancy and defense of the land. Historically, much of the land was uninhabited and could therefore be held in allodium. You know Latin, right? In the modern developed world, true allodial title is only possible for national state governments, and then they give a reference to it down
Right.
below. Although the word allodial has been used in the context of private ownership in the few states of the United States, this ownership is still restricted by government authority. The word allodial in these cases describes land with fewer but still significant government restrictions. And it goes on and on if you want to hear.
Sounds to me like all title shit for governments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you
Government
got,
has a claim.
if you got, have
Why does
everything or
anybody in this
nothing.
room care about title?
Yep.
There you go.
If it's all for governments.
Yep.
If I can make a statement here. In 1535, under King Henry VIII, and his Venetian mayor banking advisor seized property of the poor and common farmers under the pretext that they were small religious estates. By 1539, he did the same thing on large religious estates, and he took a right to any titleship, right to title that property as their own. In other words, they were just squatters on the land. They were sharecroppers, okay? By 1540, all property was to be owned through estates, effectively being welfare funds granted by the crown to the benefit of the use of the subjects, with the most common being estates for the non-wealthy, now considered wards of the estate. Then in 1545, under King Henry VIII, in chapter 1, he reintroduced the titles directly and solely connected to the slave trade of Rome, abolished by the emperors and forbidden under Christian law, called the Custodius Rhodoborium, meaning literally keeper of the slave rolls, into every county to maintain the records of the poor now as slaves. The same sacrilegious, immoral, and ecclesiastically unlawful positions continue to the 21st century as connected with the birth certificates.
And where's that from?
That's from Article 325 of oneheaven.org, Canons of Positive Law, Article 325.
Okay. Title still is a function of government.
That's right.
That's all it
Here
is.
are the land patent cases, okay? A patent issued by the United States of America, so vesting the title in the land covered thereby, that is the further general rule that such patents are not open to collateral attack. So when you have a land patent, no one can attack your land, okay?
Okay. Now, who's the name of the land patent holder?
US.
The name is the U.S. property.
That's right, the name is the U.S. agency. So the U.S. agency may be able to hold that title and everything else, but it's still subject to the government. They just get it, and anybody else can get used for a specific purpose of the agency now.
Well, it actually, they do always reserve something generally to the United States government, but not to the state. So, as I've done a lot of research on land patents, I've read probably most of the case law, Supreme Court case law. So, for example, here in New Mexico, and then actually the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo before it ever became part of the United States, a lot of these lands were already granted by the Spanish and the Mexican governments to the people to use, and they had full use. And so that was already like title.
Yeah, that's the same thing happened in Florida too, with East and
Yeah.
West Florida.
Exactly, that's from the Treaty of Portugal that they signed back in 1811 or 1820 or
Yeah,
1711.
and then I'm gonna
So the
conditionally
land
become
patent
parties to
was
that.
meant to protect the landowners from any infringement by the public, by
Okay.
the new governments or whatever, because they were supposed to retain all the rights they had when the land was still, and it was never under the jurisdiction of the government. Once it was granted from the government to the people, it became totally private. And the only role the government ever had on that land was to protect the property owner's rights,
Correct.
not to
All right,
do anything
now what
with
they've
it.
done, they take your local title and they put a lien on it so they can protect it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it says
So everybody has a local title of every land they ever have.
So it says that
And that's the purpose.
in equity court, the title under a patent from the government is subject to control to protect the rights of the party acting in a fiduciary capacity.
Correct. And the agency is the one who holds the title and the patent.
Now,
It's a fiduciary capacity.
the first,
So, what are you worried, why are we worried about title here?
No, we're not.
No,
the
we're not.
first instance of the Cincinnati Society as a result of the Revolutionary War in 1798 was an act by George Washington, which was called the Soldiers and Sailors Civil Relief Act of 1798. And that was recodified in 1940. That guaranteed every man who served active duty in the United States defending the Redcoats, fighting against the Redcoats, was guaranteed 400 acres of land in a land patent, in a loyal title, free of any excise, any usage, any type of tax whatsoever. And it was a fee simple estate on a 7 generations, going forward 7 generations from 1798.
Okay.
In 1940, they recodified it, and of course now they changed it all into like, oh, we're going to give you, college. We're going to give you $12,000. They took the Soldiers and Sailors Civil Relief Act, which only applied to the colonies, and diluted it, and then created this new plethora of benefits to these people who joined the military as cannon fodder, and offered them college and a bonus and all this other stuff, knowing that they probably won't live more than 3 to 4 years after they come out of the military. So the loyal title to me is really not worth pursuing, because like she just said, it's all Spanish land grants on the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which was actually done in 1848, and in 1849 they brought it in, and the California Republic was created in 1849, and then in 1871 they created the state known as the state of California. So in each one of those processes they did it to dilute property ownership rights,
Yeah.
just like they did as a result of the Civil War.
They didn't.
No, they did.
They did protect property rights. I was getting ready to get into Bureau of Land Management. What they did is they lifted all the bullshit, put their lien on it, and just smacked all the bullshit back down on it, and that's what you call dilution. What they really did is prevented anyone from owning all the land under a loyal, that way everybody can have it. They're not taking anything from the people.
Surface Estates was by the First Nations indigenous.
That's
travelers.
fine.
But then they laid the construct. Yeah.
That's fine, and that's dandy, and that's all, but the reality of they gave you a way to live without someone else coming in and owning everything. Because in this world of ownership, eventually someone's going to own it all. That's the problem with gold and silver. Eventually someone's going to have it all. That's the problem with using claiming ownership of anything. Someone's going to claim ownership of everything. In fact, back in 1213, someone did. He wears a pointy little hat like a fish. He's probably confused himself.
Actually, you know what that hat symbolizes? It symbolizes an acorn. It symbolizes fertility.
Fish god.
The Pope.
Okay.
Who cares?
Okay, whatever it symbolizes.
It's all symbolism.
Somebody claimed ownership.
Pineal gland.
Correct.
It's not an acorn, it's the pineal
Well, I
gland.
understand.
Somebody claimed ownership.
Yeah.
Don't you understand how affronting that is to everybody on this planet? That's all that
Yeah,
matters.
but it goes back to the Egyptians. They did the same thing.
Do you know all that case law and land patents and how people still have the people still have a right to the land and property protection and all this other stuff. None of that case law has ever been reversed, but I think what's happened is the whole, what you're talking about is when they took title to everybody, that gave them ownership of everything.
Yes.
So
and
it
it's
does,
legal
so that's why,
they
because
put
we
it in
raise
trust.
these issues in every stage of, even in federal court, and it doesn't matter, and I think the reason it doesn't matter is because as long as you're claiming that you are that name, because that's the name that's claiming ownership of the
Of the body.
land patent, we're bringing it forward in that name.
And now,
so-
now when they come in and claim you're that thing, you're that entity, you go, okay, fine, in the law of inheritance, I give it all back to the United States
Right.
without ever seeing whatever I'm owed.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you do that, you're absolved of any duties to it. That's the law of inheritance. You can sign any interest you want, anything you have right to.
So
as soon
anything
as they
tied
call
to
you
that
by
name
those.
is not ours, that's the whole thing. No
You know,
matter
I
what
think,
it's-
I think a lodial title, it's really moot. After Article 31 and 38 of the Lieber Code,
Really?
title to all property is held in abeyance. I don't care when it's occupied, it's held. It's in trust for the benefit of everyone,
Correct.
period.
That's what
It
they,
really doesn't matter. It's a moot point, the whole thing about a lodial title.
they've done it to prevent what was going on at the time, what was going on. It's still going on today. You have a bunch of foreigners coming into the country, buying up everything in the country, taking it out of the country. They're starving.
It's in the name. if
And
it's
what
in the
they did
name
is they
of-
bought everything you're gonna do and haven't been fed in 200 years. Now you're gonna know why they act like they do. They act like they do because you all, I mean, we all, everybody has been acting as if they were also foreigners taking from them. Instead of going, oh, this is our country. Everybody's like, this is our country, but I ain't gonna put into it. I want mine. And it's not about mine, it's about letting go into the whole. And that state represents the whole, represents the whole of divinity as it manifests on here, as it manifests on this world, through us, through that entity, so we can create the world that our grandchildren's grandchildren will inherit. I don't know about you, but I don't want them inheriting this world.
That's
This
so.
world is horrible. This world's only going like, going down. And you don't want, I don't know about you, but your grandchildren and their children, I don't want them inheriting this world.
We're changing that with what we're learning
I want
today.
them to inherit a world
Yep, I
that
agree.
they feel protected and enlightened with, not burdened by and put in chains.
Basically going back to Jamestown.
You know, we're restoring Eden. You know, you can't get into heaven when you claim ownership and cling to material stuff of this world. It's called camel fat. You can't fit through the eye of the needle, folks. So
Yeah.
stop claiming ownership, surrender that, and restore Eden. It's here around us.
This quote-unquote subculture of the illusion of the American dream, this is what it is. But unfortunately, we're all lured into this false representation of what the American dream is, which is nothing more than debt upon debt upon debt.
Correct.
And this process here is actually taking and reverting that around so we can live the
Right,
American dream.
and it goes right back to the letter from Jefferson.
Yes.
Yeah.
From Jefferson to Madison before they did the Constitution. And what it was is they were debating on the corporations and debt. And they said if the corporations ever got a hold and the debt ever got a hold of these lands, they would eat the usufruct for generations to come and then burden it with debt. In fact, Jefferson was so against debt, he wanted to put a 19-year limit on it. Every 19 years it would reset for the next generation. And the first generation.
Not a bad idea.
And the previous one would have to pay out whatever it incurred during its administration. So you couldn't have this shit up in Washington where they're just sucking out everything for today, leaving nothing for tomorrow. And we're helping them do that.
The pledge.
We're all helping them do that by not giving them what they need, because that's why they have to do all this. And then once you do this and accept what is, the military and civil government both disappear. That's right out of the U.S. Attorney General's opinion from right after the Reconstruction Acts. They made it perfectly clear that the people were to accept what was going on, because the states and counties are in rebellion. Those governments are in rebellion, and they always will be. They do not want to tell that they don't. You see it in the movies, you see on TV, when the feds come down to the state guys, what do? They start fighting with each other.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing going on now. When the federal comes down into the state from jurisdictional level, they fight with each other. They have to sue each other over jurisdictions. When the United States is the United States, these guys are sub-corporations of the United States. So it's like your child telling you no when you tell them to do something.
Franchise holders saying that no to the franchise
Yeah.
board.
So I mean, this is what's going on here. It's a really simple solution. It's really complex, it's really hard to grasp it. But it's really simple in its implementation. And when you see it, and see how quickly it moves through, and see how quickly you can reverse it just based on the actions of the people with you, you don't need to do these mountains of paperwork proving who you are. I don't have to prove who I am. I just have to accept the damn contract and give it to the United States and fulfill some obligation to support my being here on their land, so they can defend me from any harm while I fulfill the plan the divine creator put in for me. That's it. I mean, that's as much as you need to know about this. All this other stuff y'all is junk. You don't need it. You need to clear your head of it. It's that underbrush that comes with every burn. Every winter, you get the fires in certain areas of the world. Every spring, every fall, every winter they burn, so that way you get the spring showers for the new life. If you don't have that undergrowth burn, you ain't getting new growth. All right, your old growth will start rotting because the undergrowth will choke it. It'll take all the nutrients and all the sustenance from it. It'll suck up all the light that was supposed to hit down. It has to burn. This is called the Armageddon of the mind, of the heart, of the soul. All that negative, of all that darkness that we've been holding on to, all those chains, everything is going to burn off. And it's going to happen in here. It's going to happen in here.
We need to have the ashes. We need to have the ashes for the phoenix to rise.
Right.
Basically, the state government assign the living people and the living people's labor force and the land itself, and then assign to the United States, U.S. Treasury, to pay the debt. And it is filed in the Maryland state as a living man and woman with arms and legs, and the 50 state land. And the 50 state secretary actually gave the seal, and they actually claim those Hague Convention seal also identify the states okay. So basically, our energy and land, everything is assigned to the United States.
Correct.
So now we actually pledge everything, and our duty is not there. It's their duty once they capture
But
that.
without our vote and through fraud.
You don't vote. Voting is for the military government.
Well, no, I meant in the beginning.
Yeah. You never register to vote. Registering to vote says you're a member of the military government. That's where registering to vote came out of the Reconstruction Acts. It's a way to register to all the ones who are administrating through the democracy. Because they're actually administrating the republic, and a republic is just a repurposing of something. So right now we're all public. Once you assign the interest, you republic yourself or repurpose your being, your entities, your agency becomes repurposed. The estate within it becomes repurposed. And that's really what republic means.
So once I got the certified copy of this UCC, and there was a judgment against the capitalized name. So I sent this UCC to the judge, and I said, I am one of these men and women with the arms and legs. My land has been assigned to create the money. So you discharge the debt. And then judge.
It goes away. It'll go away.
And he did? He did it?
All you're doing is you're claiming that divine proportion, like he said. Your divine proportion is your right to be. My right to exist. You're not corporations. You're not persons. You weren't brought here to put boots on your neck. You were not created to be treated like you're being treated. Like you're allowing yourself to be treated. They're not treating you that way. We're allowing it to happen. Get that mind that they're doing this to you and get it in yours. I'm the damn problem. I am the problem because I did nothing to stop it. I did nothing to stop it, so my brothers and sisters do suffer unjustly because of my inactions. So now I'm taking action, and this is my action.
There'll be no more cognitive dissonance coming from that agency.
That's right.
So this whole action that's doing is basically what it is
You basically assigned everything what you own, including your bank account. The bank account that you're banking at is all capitalized name. So that once you you actually depose the bank, and that's not yours. Also, the bank captures that and they assign everything, and they are brokers. So basically, your personal bank account is not yours.
Right.
It is actually, again, it belongs to the United States of America.
And the money is not yours.
So what these pirates are doing is they are forcing you to contract, and they want your signature again, a new signature, and that becomes a negotiable instrument. Anything you sign becomes a negotiable instrument, and they are creating more profit and proceeds from your new signature. And that's what they're doing. But they don't want to discharge your debt, but they want you to issue more stuff so they can create more money. That's it.
Yeah, it's true.
So you gotta stop this behavior and keep giving out from the account that is not even yours.
Every document you guys sign, you notice it's only your signature? It's not a bilateral contract? It's unilateral.
It's an agreement, not a contract.
Well, okay,
It's not-
however way you want to do it. but-
It's not.
I know that.
There's no meeting of the minds, there's no full disclosure, there's no exact.
Says on the top,
disclosure of
agreement.
Terms and conditions.
It's
That's
not
why Jerry
even,
King used to redact the whole freaking promissory note, and have 3 lines left on it.
Yeah, but actually, it's not even a unilateral contract.
Right.
If you really think about it, if they transfer this, who has the contract? No one. Right? So you are signing this, and this is not even a contract. What you just gave is a negotiable instrument. It's money. It's not a contract. People say, yes, it is a unilateral contract. That's only if they hold, the other party holds it. But if they are transferring your applications for passport, application to driver license, application to whatever, they put everything into stock market and trade. Now, where is your obligation when the other party does not hold it? So it becomes a negotiable instrument. They are negotiated, sold it to the stock market. So where is the unilateral contract? That's all this is. Solvent people, they say guru, and they say this is a unilateral contract. It's not a contract. It's a negotiable instrument. Everything is a negotiable instrument. And it goes under UCC.
Oops.
So there's be a contract that has to be 2 or more parties.
Yes, sir.
You can't have a unilateral.
No, that makes sense.
I understand what I'm saying.
There you go. Yeah, that makes sense. Learn something every day, don't we?
So it's probably like some of
I
you
unplugged it,
heard
I'm sorry, I
that
unplugged the projector.
in
To get that thing to fit. Did it screw it up?
the United States assigned to UN. What they just did was the United States was its trustee, but they actually transferred that to UN.
That came about from Bretton Woods, right, 1944.
And it became everybody subject to international law.
I apologize, but whatever.
And then everybody is subject to anything that you sign. It's under UNIDROIT. You go to UN and you punch UNIDROIT. It's basically UCC law that they created.
Yeah, the UCC is the international.
And the United States of America pays $250 million to the owner of the UNIDROIT UCC laws, that United States of America have a right to use UCC laws because we pay $250 million membership fee
Wow.
per year.
That's peanuts.
That's amazing, yeah.
Well, maybe
So
people, maybe we can
have
see,
to use those international laws.
maybe we can see right off of that monitor.
Did something there.
Hey, turn that one up, crank that
I was gonna ask
There we
for
go.
insurance policy, crank it
All
up.
right.
Corrected.
This
adopted a song. I have adopted a song for our purposes. We're gonna close with that today.
You know, it's only 2:30, right?
You know, it's only 2:30.
Come on, louder in the house.
Sounds like a love song.
I found that to be the perfect song for what we're doing.
Opening and closing.
The threshold of a new world, everybody.
Right on.
Who's the artist on that?
That's Five Finger Death Punch, and it's written by Rob Halford.
I never heard of
If you can't tell the 80s influence.
Oh my God, nice riffs, man.
Of course, it was the 80s, man. It was double bass stuff.
Oh, that
That was double bass.
40 years old almost.
No, it's not 30, it's 40, but it's written by Rob Halford. It's all 80s stuff. So you can tell, man, they don't, rock today doesn't do that shit.
Oh, there's no such thing as rock today. It's all.
Yeah, But I found that to be the perfect song for what we're doing.
Yes, sir.
And the first time I heard that, I was just like, okay, that's it. That's my song.
It's pretty good for a Friday night to get it going too.
Yeah.
I mean, just-
All right, so we got questions?
Yeah, up on your website, to take this knowledge that we're all here to get and to share with each other, things that have worked and samples and templates, is that up on your site, or we're still
No, I
in
don't have
progress?
samples and templates on the site. The reason for that is because everything should come from within.
Well, that's why I gave you that letter that we did for the.
You know, if you want, Jim
Jim,
and Jim can share what we've done.
Thank you.
Because we've done it, they're the ones who are out doing it. I got my stuff going, but I just kind of throw a piece of paper and put here.
Well, a lot of times having the knowledge is one thing, but applying it properly is another.
Right.
All this is applied.
Yeah,
Everything
Forrest
I've
has
done.
a certain act of writing things. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but
I
he's very
mean,
good at it.
yeah, everything I've done, everything that's been done here, I apply in my cases. And, you know, like I said, there's a 9-year one that went on for 9 years, and they just kept losing stuff. And now the federal government's coming to collect it, now they're gonna lose stuff too, they've already started. You go into, all right, incompetence. I don't know that thing incompetence that they threaten you with. Do you know what incompetence means?
I do.
I do.
We
gotta get this done.
It means you haven't claimed your securities.
I want to have everybody check.
So when you go into a shrink, when they go incompetence, what's the first thing you do when you walk into the shrink? You give them your acceptance and demand for return of your securities, because he's the one who's gonna report to the judge. That's how you handle incompetence.
You have him do the delivery.
You have him do it.
He's an officer of the court.
He did the delivery in the
He's an
delivery
agent
room,
at
so
that
let him
point.
deliver again. Like delivery.
What are you gonna do? That's what their definitions are, you just use them.
Is assigning the UCC assignment, is that considered cleaning
No.
security?
Yeah, it is and it's not. The UCC has just noticed that you've done something. Now you have to follow up with the actual act. That's why you appoint the judge or someone else who's making the claim as fiduciary to deliver the instruments and proceeds so you can endorse all that stuff over to the United States and fulfill your duties. The strawman agency you're using can only do a couple things.
Right here.
The agency can only appoint or nominate those are the two acts it can do. Appoint or nominate, and you come under here, under 19.
Our appointment act.
No, you got your mandatory judicial notice and your Form 56.
Right. But the authority comes from this, the 1951 Power of Appointment Act. And give gifts, this is 31 USC 3113.
And also 263C, enter second section 247 is their fiduciary responsibility.
Right. So your fiduciary responsibility towards this power is to appoint another fiduciary to receive the gift.
And the one who has the tools to take care of the matter, which is the judge is the bench, and the bench is the bank.
He's the one administrating the estate. He's the one who volunteered for the position. He's the one who gets to do
So
this.
you pull out, you put him in your place.
For that specific matter.
That's
As a
specific.
specific executor.
Yeah.
Or special
Now, he's the
special
US
executive.
citizen, he's the one that took the oath, not you, so put the right guy in place for you.
Basically, you're appointing him as a special executor for this matter of purpose and none other. You limit his function. You give him this thing to do for this matter, whatever matter is at hand in front of him. You can do it for 10 days. I believe the agency I believe the appointment lasts 90, and on the 91st you file your tax return, you file your tax forms, if you don't hear from them. You can do less, and then have them do your tax forms and report did what he should have gotten, which is he should have gotten the gifts for delivery. But since he doesn't do that, he's now withholding delivery of interest to the United States. And he went to the United States to go do the assessment on him.
Now he's a pirate.
Right. And what you do is you offer this guy indemnification, because he's indemnified. under 1295A2.
No person shall be
No
allowed.
person shall be held liable in any court for anything done or omitted in good faith or reliance on, enforcement of, pursuant to this section.
That includes the judge.
So the judge is indemnified under 12 U.S.C. 95A to go and collect the bonds that he otherwise wouldn't be indemnified for. And when you do it to where he delivers it back to you, because you're the executor of the estate in reversion, which is the interest. Remember, estate is just interest. So estate in reversion. Would be an interest reverting to the United States, which would be your contract. Because you claimed an interest as an agency to acquire it on behalf of the United States. Under 1951, you appoint the judge to come collect it, to give you the proceeds, so you can give the gift to the United States in fulfillment of your duties under 1295A, so the United States can have its reversionary interest, or a stated expectancy.
And you're indemnifying the judge pursuant to 12 years.
And because you're coming in as the executor or defender of this estate of the United States, the interest, you come in under Rule 17. Rule 17 of Federal Rules of Civil Procedure is the real party of interest. You come in as the executor, you won't be joined into the matter.
It's ratification of commencement, that's declaring who the real two parties are.
Correct, and the real party is, the beneficiary is the United States. So the guy making the claim is doing what? Attacking benefits due to the United States relating to its purchase of an interest in me.
Treason.
So you would call this a
Want to pick that up?
ratification of contract?
What's that?
You call this a ratification of contract?
It's ratification of commencement, I think that's what they call it.
Ratification of commencement, Rule
Rule 17,
17B.
Federal Rules of Civil Procedure.
Rule 17B.
Okay. And the reason it is, you come in as the executor of this estate in reversion. Do not come in for yourself. You come in for the United States. Because this is my marriage, and I defend my marriage.
More perfect union.
A more perfect union.
You want me to put that package up? I have a copy of it, if you want to.
Okay, and this all has to deal with the nature of a certain energy structure.
Is that the energy structure of the flipped star?
Okay. No, this is the energy structure. Okay. It's best illustrated in an AHA video called Take On Me. Beautiful video. It's on the website. I put it up there. All right, basically what we have, each one of us is a sphere of influence, and we merge with another one. Your masculine energies are your dreams. The feminine energy is the nurture. When two entities get together, the dreams of one are nurtured by the other, and the same with the other, and that creates a perfect balance. And this is the nature of the system. The system is a masculine energy force, and it protects the feminine side. And the feminine is always an act of surrender. So when you're coming in and doing this, realize you're dealing with a masculine energy source called the system. The system is a protectionary nature. It is masculine. It seeks to protect. If it has nothing to protect, it will lash out and destroy everything in its process to find something to protect. Same thing with the feminine, with the nurture. You do not give a woman, you do not give feminine energy a dream to nurture. She will lash out and destroy everything in her process searching for it. It's the nature of both energies. They both need each other, but they must complement. They must first be unionized. They must join. And the perfect balance is when the dreams of one match the nurture of other, and it's vice versa on the other side. And this is the nature of the system. And this is its energy structure. And what you have is you have many people doing this, and suddenly you have a crystal. A crystallized consciousness of one thought done out of one act of supreme love and sacrifice. And then now, when this crystal takes shape, now other crystals can come in and join it, and now you get consciousness. This is just a crystallization of one thought, one act of supreme love and sacrifice for the benefit of two. So they both have what they need. The system in yourself, or that feminine and masculine energy. Your dreams will be nurtured by the system if you protect the integrity of it. And now you have this, a crystal, one crystal of thought. That now, what happens when you get one crystal inside a cloud? What happens?
Snow.
It attracts other crystals, and those attract others, and others, and others, and others. What do you get now? You get rain. And you get something to nurture the land. You get something to put the water on the seed. You get the age of Aquarius. The crystallization of thought and consciousness within the one, instead of as confusion for the whole. Coming out of that water and onto the land, the crystal. Coming out of the dream and the emotion and everything else coming onto the shores. We come from the water. We came from the water, the Pisces. Now we're coming to land where the dream world and the emotion hits the water, and the crystallization of all those thoughts occurs, and the wave keeps going on forward after the beach. That's how the land is created. One crystal at a time. And that's how this will be done. One crystal at a time within each one of you.
It's a Genesis.
Yes. It's a rebirth.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is what we're doing. We're creating a consciousness. We're actually supporting one that's already been born and manifest into one woman. And I've talked with some beautiful woman. And I protect that consciousness. And that's my role here. I protect this. I don't give a shit about anything else on this planet but this, because this one light will take me home. One word, Yusufruct, one light I follow. One philosophy. When single shines, the triple sun, what is sundered and undone shall behold the two made one, by Gelfling hand or else by none. That's what it's about, putting yourself back together. Unshattering the crystal to return the light into the one, thus returning life to the land. And we all return life to the land. The whole land will have its life back and be rejuvenated. And this, I protect this. I don't care about anything else on this planet but this consciousness. And that's my role here. And it's already started. It's already started. And I can see it take hold. It'll take hold in everybody. Everybody will be light that will give this more energy to grow. Because crystals grow. They're naturally growing creatures.
You mentioned one thing, a little clarity on, somebody signed the back of the mortgage when they got it, and then they got a check. So are they being paid in FRNs?
They're being paid in treasury check. Now, if they go out and cash it, they'll be paid in FRNs or whatever they convert it into.
Converted.
They're just given a treasury check.
You become a
Until
money
you
changer.
convert it, it isn't FRNs. It's just a check. He can take that check and assign it over to anybody he wants and get whatever he wants for it.
Is that check considered, it would be considered lawful money, right?
I guess so.
Under Title
It came from-
28,
It came from the treasury.
Had to be lawful money.
It came from the treasury. It was just a conversion of his note to another usable form.
It depends on how you endorse it. If you endorse it under Title 12, Section 411, to redeem lawful money, the Federal Reserve Bank may have a problem doing that if you know what the difference between lawful money and legal tender is.
Yeah, some banks won't take that endorsement.
But you can purchase real property with that check, right?
Well, you're entering into a
In
contract.
regards to him. How's the light in regards to him?
Mine.
All right, we got any more questions?
It's a success stories.
I want to hear that song again.
Success stories. Well, we got D. D went into federal court under Chapter 13 bankruptcy after her husband had abandoned her. Quit claiming the house and did shine over all the debt to this woman. She had no clue what she was doing. Back in December, she found what this we're talking about. And she went into that federal court. That's what the audio on the site is all about. She went into federal court without the ego, following this philosophy. Very little paperwork, very little knowledge. She hammered them. All her debt, her house, her car, her child, her any bills she had,
Student
her
loans.
student loans, everything gone. And all she did, she handled it so beautifully, I cannot even begin to describe it. For me to describe it, do it injustice. You don't have to listen to it.
You got the first 20 minutes I've listened to like 6 times in a row. Still gets my hair bristles on my neck.
The
That's
evolution
beautiful.
that this woman went through. And then I talked to her on the side and beforehand, she is just phenomenal.
She is. She's amazing.
She is a phenomenal little lady, and she's in her 70s. She's a little black lady in Tennessee, Cherokee, on the Cherokee land.
Right on.
And the consciousness has taken its hold in her. And her children are also special. They were pointing. It was weird. She told me this story when she was a younger woman, and her children were 5 and 7. They're like 19 and 21 now. They were in a church. And everybody entered, like they put the children on each one side, and they're all scattered throughout this church. And this woman she'd never seen stood up and said, "I can't handle it no more." And they said, "What?" I go, "This girl," and she went over to the other girl, have beams of light coming out of their eyes. And I want to know who these girls' mother is. And he stand up, and she goes, "Now I know." And they ain't never heard from her again. But she did know that the lady was a member of a triplet. So it was a 3. There's a couple other things that have happened with her that are just, wow. I mean, it's just amazing to hear her story.
Now, that case happened at the end of May.
And she talked to me a little bit before that, and I just told her, don't worry about your paperwork, just get the philosophy.
And then here we are in the 23rd of August or 22nd of August. She's still in her house. She's still in her
Still have a car, still has everything.
Yeah.
They've come to her house knocking, but if they just wanted to sign documents, they can't take it. They can't do anything with it. They sold that debt, and now they're on the hook for what they sold. How's that her problem?
Yeah.
They should have given it to the United States like they should have. What they did, they took it out and sold it to try and profit off of it. Now guess what? They're a fuck.
No, they're usable.
Yes.
So then you go after the 30.
Now, when we first did this, Jimmy here had the mortgage, the one that's on the site there. That's where we started putting a lot of efforts. It was he had a UCC one filed in the county, filed with the state, and put in the county. On it, he has the debtor is the hospital's address and one of the names. And I guess the attorney found it, or some paralegal in the firm. Somebody did due diligence. Yeah, somebody did it. You know, due diligence is a myth, like dry land.
Somebody gave us a gift.
Yeah, somebody gave us a gift. And what they did is they brought in the hospital as a defendant. A week and a half later, they couldn't get rid of it fast enough. They did a voluntary withdrawal. A year and a half later,
2 months later.
it showed up in the county records as the mortgage has been satisfied. And Jimmy did nothing.
I didn't show up.
Nothing.
I didn't know what
He
happened.
didn't even know it occurred.
You
One
know
of our
what?
buddies found it by accident, searching through the records.
You know what?
Bullshit.
They did a counterclaim themselves on themselves.
Yes.
That's what they did.
Oh my God.
They did their own.
Hold on a second. I still got one foot left and another foot.
All right, now we got another guy who came over, who was a buddy of ours who's been learning with us for 6 years. His next door neighbor is a Mexican guy, knows nothing. Nothing. He came over Sunday night for the auction that was occurring Monday morning. I wrote up a letter asking him to, okay, that's fine, we accept this, accept that. Now produce the bonds under the IRS code 26232A that shows that the transfer is warranted by the one doing it. It went through the day. Later that day, it showed up. Auction does not meet county requirements.
Excuse me, I don't mean to be redundant, but I want to get that statement on. I know everyone else is recording it. Would you please say that one more time?
Oh, this little Mexican guy came over one night with our buddy. He's been learning with us. I've never seen this guy before. And he goes, well, they told me the story. It's like, it was foreclosure. They did a default. Everything else, are getting ready to sell the house on Monday. And I go, all right, do you know about this? He's like, no. I go, what do you know? He goes, I know nothing. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do the only thing I can think of with you. I'm going to do the simplest thing I can think of. You're going to accept their offer. And now demand the bond be produced for underwriting the transfer that was secured by the one making the claim under 26232A. Case, he went in, they walked it through the court, they went down there and just put it in there all day long. They're going to the courts, putting it in. Later that day, came back on the county, auction does not meet county requirements. Because we also put in there, just because you foreclosed on a mortgage under Florida statute 697.02, you ain't entitled to the property. Because 697.02 of Florida statutes says a mortgage is held to be a special kind of lien and not an entitlement of right of possession or legal title.
You say put in
When you have a mortgage, you own a usufruct. You have no right to the title nor possession. It's an insurance policy.
All they're doing is making insurance.
Everything, every contract you have out here is an insurance policy. It's maritime law, it's all insurance.
Is that IRS 2632A?
That's for the demand for the bond?
2032.
Capital
A.
E11. Lowercase e and then 11.
It's called farm evaluations and other transfers of property. It's 2032, capitalize A, parentheses little e, parentheses 11.
Because what that's doing right there is that is now solidifying the adverse possession because their process has got a major defect in it.
That's right.
And if you go along with that major defect, guess what?
You get the tax.
You get the tax.
You get the tax because you're the executor over this whole shit. You're the executor of your own affairs on this world. Ain't nobody else executor of it. You're trustee of the contract you create and the executor of it. Execute it.
You say put into the court. What you just?
Oh, they went down and they delivered it to the court, the clerk of the court, and the court administrator, and I think the judge.
So
I think they put it into the, did they put it into the file, the record?
Yeah, I put in the file. I would add the state court administrator.
Yeah, the state court administrators too.
Because that gets her foot, his or her foot.
But how do you
But
put
now,
it in? I mean, what are you
once-
putting it into is what I'm asking.
His case.
Oh, there was a case.
Yeah, he had a foreclosure case.
They were
It was
getting
ready
ready
to
to
be
settle
sold.
it.
That's he came over the Sunday night before
Oh,
this
got it.
thing. He knew nothing. He still knows nothing to this day. All he knows is he's got a magic piece of paper.
Walter's got
He had one of those, what do you call it, they deliver it to put all your shit in it?
Oh, yeah.
Pod.
He had a pod in front of the house and everything. And they finally took the pod away last week and I think he moved back in the house. He was still afraid to even move it.
Jim, when you talked about, I'm sorry, excuse me. Jim, when you talked about when you did the UCC one and you put the hospital down, that was the birth where the event initiated?
Right, but this is in 2008, and I was kind of just mulling over things, and, you know, I thought about the Knights Templar, I did a lot of studying on them, and I always remember hearing the term, you're worth your weight in gold. So I said, wait a minute, Jim, the man, was born in the hospital, worth his weight in gold, and I get a receipt from the state as a debtor. Where's the value? I'm like, damn it, that hospital owes me something. I put them on a UCC. But I used the name and then I used them as the address. And that was...
Oh my gosh, well, because, you know, a hospital...
Providence Hospital, Detroit, Michigan.
Oh my, well, that's on Wayne County.
Well, it's Detroit. When I was born, it was in Detroit. They closed it.
But Detroit has its own Department of Vital Records separate from Michigan State,
Yes,
or
they
the state
do.
of Michigan.
But that doesn't have a number on it. It's minus the number, the state number. So
Yeah, the only thing that matters though is the hospital creates an infant.
That's the foundling. The point I'm trying to make is the foundling is what was titled by the floor sweeps that were claimed under the law of salvage that Jesuits performed.
Okay.
So you're living proof that that is exactly what happened is the point I'm trying to make.
Have you all read the operation of every single claim that I wrote? Okay.
The operation of
every single claim is basically the fact that since it all operates under insurance, they've already gotten paid every time something occurs.
Oh,
Yes.
Every court case is a salvage operation.
That's right.
Every probate matter is a salvage operation. Everything is salvage.
It's a construction project too because they need to build a case.
Correct. They need to build a case. So what you have is you have a federal construction project, you have salvage operations and everything else, because what they did is they took on all this cargo, people, mortgaged it to the hilt on the seas of commerce, and then shoved you all overboard and took off. And then said, oh, we lost all our cargo. And then they come back to the spot they dumped it at and go, salvage it. This is how these guys operate.
Same thing going on in Iraq.
It's the
Blow it
same-
up and then rebuild it.
Correct, it's the same thing that's been
Europe
going
in
on
World War
for
II.
centuries. Insurance fraud is the oldest form of scam in the book.
Anybody know about the Titanic? That really the Titanic was the one that sank?
Oh, yeah.
And when
It
it
was the
sank,
sister ship that they couldn't get
Star
insurance
Ocean.
on. They switched the names in the middle of the night
Okay,
and sent it out to get
here's
some.
another good one for you. During the initiation of the Syrian event that's going on now, Russia was backing Syria. Russia was shipping stuff to Syria, but it has to go through the North Sea. Midway through their journey, Lloyd's of London went yoink to their insurance policy.
They couldn't move
That
it.
ship couldn't move.
I
So
seen
they
that
had
on the
a new
news.
one.
I'm like, oh my God, who's
What
running the
happened?
world?
Hold on.
The insurance company.
What happened in Syria with Russia at that time was that Russia agreed not to put in a missile installation and they got their insurance policy back.
There you go.
The KS-500 didn't use this.
This is what happens. This is how they do negotiations around the world. They pull insurance policies because it all is insurance.
The Brits are going to have its own, the Shanghai Exchange is going to have their own equivalent to Lloyd's of London coming up on
Yep.
April 10th of 2015.
But now, since it's all insurance, there's also, they also have the subjugation goes along with it. So Social Security is also insurance for the nation. They subjugate your rights to make claims for ownership in favor of their claims for ownership. Because that's what an insurance policy does. You get insurance on your car, you get into a wreck, do you handle the matter yourself, or you call an insurance agent and they go do it? Right, they subjugated your claim to the car. They'll agree to, they'll do whatever they can to replace it, whatever, but they subjugated your claims to it. Now they're going to come in, their lawyer, they're going to do an adverse possession on the contract to see what loopholes they can get. And that's essentially, that's what the ego is, guys. It's a lawyer. No matter how much you try and control it and bind it, it's always going to look for the loophole.
It's that guy on your shoulder.
Yeah, it's the turn on me.
A revolver.
Yeah,
Right, now
so
talk
I
about-
mean, it's simple to trick, it's hard to keep down.
Now, what happens when a deer hits your car and you...
The state pays for it.
State pays for it. It's their property.
It's
When
their
you give
property.
that
The
property
deer is
back to the
property.
state, they take care of the obligations, man.
Who in the
They're
world can
supposed to.
indemnify a deer? For Christ's
Exactly.
sakes, right?
Now it becomes a law of nature.
That's right.
Are you telling me that
An
this,
act,
remember
no, it's
the
an
one
act of nature.
An act of nature.
I remember
which
one
is
guy we
under
heard from down in
insurance.
St. Pete, it was Tim's, well, it was your buddy Demetrius told us this story. Who, this guy goes into court for child support. And his whole thing was, I'm like a deer, Your Honor, does a deer pay child support? No child support, none.
you mean to tell me that a deer has a use effect with the government?
Exactly.
That's what he said.
So it all goes back to zero.
That's as simple a statement as you can make.
And he did, that's actually pretty cool, yeah.
Judge, is a man listed as animal?
No, I'm like,
Under Title VIII.
I'm like a deer. Does a deer need a passport?
Well, passport was only for cargo.
I understand, but if I'm like the animals on this planet, they're gonna consider me an animal. Does an animal need a license to cross the street, travel anywhere, have passports, pay for its shelter, pay for it? No, God provided everything. If they're gonna say I'm part of that entity and they're gonna claim to be God, they better damn well provide everything or it's false, idol. And every time you come in and support their actions, you're actually committing idolatry.
Beware of the Noahide laws. Anybody know about the Noahide laws?
no.
Just Google beware of the Noahide laws.
Idolatry is the
Noah,
first
I-D-E.
sin.
You know,
After they get you on this, they don't need any other, because it all runs under the Noahide laws.
Yep.
How do you spell that? Noah?
Write it down.
Noahide. Like Noah? Like
Noah,
Noah the ship? Noahide. N-O-A-H-I-D-E.
Just Google beware of the Noahide laws. President Bush #1
I think
signed
they
into
put
law in
C in there
2000.
sometimes,
No,
so it's Noahide.
1992.
So these are the 7 laws that were put in, I think, under the
Hey,
American
Noah.
Economic Act.
No, that's not
right.
that's not right.
Get rid of the,
Get rid
I've
of
seen them
that.
spelled both ways.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yes, I've seen it spelled both ways. This is the
I
way
just
I've
go
always
Noah,
spelled
then I-D-E is what I do.
Noahide
I've
is
seen it
Noah.
spelled these ways. That's the way I've learned.
Noah Chai stands for, means what? It's from some language?
Huh?
No, that'd be no.
It goes back to Old
Noah.
Testament law.
The basic 7 laws.
That's how I...
The laws of Noah.
But yeah, it goes back to the laws of Noah, Moses. all that shit. Huh?
He built a ship. He
Yeah, but
put
it's
the water
basically,
in.
idolatry is the first one.
You only need one witness against you, not two. And the penalty for breaking any of these 7 laws is decapitation. Now, we have that as Public Law 214, I can't remember the number of it.
Is this Middle Eastern?
No, this is United States public law.
Soon to be adopted as Sharia law.
Yeah, you
Well,
stay
Sharia law is
tuned.
It is
Muslim.
spelled both ways.
Yeah, yeah.
Sharia law though is Muslim.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
Biblical laws for Gentile observance are rudimentary principles of morality.
There you go.
Bless you.
Pizza, pizza.
You've disrupted the class, you're expelled from school.
Let's go party.
All right,
School's out.
the name you use is an idol. It's a pagan receptor for a spirit to animate it.
Graven image on the piece of paper.
Yep. Made out of wood. Paper's made out
The
of
things
wood.
that people call Jews, the people, they're executors of the law. The operators of the law are what you call Gentiles.
Goyim, gentle.
Gone, whatever, Goyim,
Show off.
whatever. Whatever they want to call them. But that's basically what you have. So we're the operators of the law. The Jews are the executor of the law. Why? They executed Jesus.
First claim, first in time, first in line.
Yes, the law was fulfilled through the death of Jesus. The law was fulfilled for everybody, because now the death of the only Son pays for all your sins or all your debts. So you can do anything you want in service to your Creator. Your sins are already paid for. Your debts have already been paid for because your Creator sent His only Son to die for you. Knowing full, He was the one who came before everybody. The original crystal of consciousness, of light. He was the Christ consciousness in person. Every one of you have the ability to become that consciousness within. Every single one of you do. All you have to do is break free of the chains. And you too can be enlightened, can move up, can ascend from the lower chakra bases of the survival mode into the higher being and vibrations
You've got
of
to read
love
this. This
and
is
life.
Crazy.
It's
You
unbelievable.
guys got to read it.
This is insane. You've got to read some of this stuff.
What?
Some of this.
to know on.
All right.
I just happened to come across prohibit illicit sexual relations. It's number N7.
Oh, I didn't read that one.
Oh, incest, sexual fondling resulting in penetration of a mother's sex organ by the penis of her son or the daughter's vagina by the father, and then it goes the sister and the brother. It can't go through the third cousin. Includes family sexual offenders and close relationships by marriage. Mental sex. This is a willingly allowing a depraved or unregenerate person's mind to indulge itself in devilish sexual images. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Well, go read the Talmud and find out what they talk about Goyim and
This,
Gentiles.
look at the very first one.
And they talk about don't eat live.
Go read the Jesuit assassins.
Yes, yes. That one.
That's the very first one. Idolatry.
Latry, L-A-T-O.
I don't care.
Prohibit
What's
eating
your idol?
blood.
A little poultry.
Eating blood
Basically, yeah.
pollutes the eater. This is unbelievable.
We got that public, that's public.
Well, idolatry.
Prohibit eating things strangled.
That's the first and foremost sin. Once you commit that sin, they don't even have to go any further. They got you on the first one. That's why they ask you for your name.
Original sin. Born into original sin.
They ask you for your name because the second you claim to be it, you claim to be an idol. The name is a vessel to receive a spirit, so it can animate in that pagan world.
So how would you answer when they ask you that?
Hmm?
Like when they ask you your name, how would you answer?
Jim had a good one when he was in front of the judge.
I am that I am.
Yeah, and I told him when the judge
What
says,
evidence
well,
do you
what's
have?
your name? I said, well, what evidence do I have
What
such a
evidence do
thing?
you have that?
What evidence do you have that I own such a thing?
Yes.
And he goes, well, I believe everybody's got a name. And I said, well, it's nice what you believe, but what does that have to do with the facts here today?
Now, tell him the rest of the story, though. He got you for contempt, he went to jail, and an agent came in and got him out and said, what are you going to do about the judge now? Because the judge touched the body without his permission.
Yeah,
the judge
the Men in
should be
Black. I got a
he
visit.
gave
I got a
me
visit from the Men in Black. Some of you guys have heard the story already, but basically they came in and they said, well, we want to know. He came in and they made this story up that he said, hey, your attorney's here to see you. Well, I don't do attorneys. But I wanted to go see what this is all about. So I went and talked to this guy and I said, so you're whose attorney? And he said, I just had to tell him that so we can have a private room. We need to talk. I said, oh, we need to talk. What's your name? And he goes, I can't tell you that. That tells you how important the name is, right? I go, well, who sent you to talk with me? He said, I can't even tell you that here. I said, well, what the hell can you tell me? He said, well, we've been watching what you said in that courtroom, and we want to know where you studied law. Well, we went on and talked a little bit, and then he seemed really obsessed. He's like, well, what are you going to do with the judge when you get out of here? And I said, what are you talking about? When you get out of here, what are you going to do to him? And he was very obsessed with that. And I'm thinking for a second, well, wait a minute. I'm in here with an orange jumpsuit for 10 days. He's out there with a black robe making $250,000 a year on a bench somewhere. Why are they concerned about me? Then I realized, this is a test. They're testing for intent. The worst type of peaceful inhabitant is one laying in wait, who's a belligerent. A belligerent posing, a wolf in sheep's clothing. They want to test and see that I'm not going to use the information I have to hurt the system. So I thought, and so if you guys ever get visited by the men in black, remember, that's a blessing, and it's your opportunity to express your true intent, which should be love and peace. So I thought inside, well, what would WWJD? What would Jesus do, right? So I turned to him and I looked him square in the eye, and I did, I like to do this with my hands. Right? Put my hands up like this. I said to him,
roll the eyes too. You roll the eyes.
I roll my hands up.
He does the incompetence real well.
He said, they saw I did that in court when I was doing this. Put the hands up. So he goes, I said, well, you tell Judge Pierce, if he feels that he's trespassed against me, let him know I forgive my brother of his trespass. And then I went on, and I said, now, also, if he feels that I've trespassed against him or his courtroom, ask him, will he likewise forgive his brother of my trespasses? Now, what did I just quote? What is that? That's Lord's Prayer. The highest law there is, right? And then I proceeded, I said, now if he should choose not to forgive me, then I'll know, this jail's full of lost souls and broken people. And then I'll know that he's helping my Father, because my Father wants me here to do my Father's work. And you thank him for the opportunity to serve my Father where I'm needed most. They had my ass on the curb by 8 p.m. that night. Well, about 11, but almost 72 hours exactly from when they put me in purgatory. When they rolled the rock in front of my cave. They gave me 72 hours.
Hey, Jim, a Jesuit would deny all of that stuff and say all that stuff, but at the same time, being a two-faced Janus, he would do anything he can to eliminate the enemy. Have you ever read the document called Jesuit Assassination?
No.
Oh. Or the Jesuit Oath?
Nope. Not doing Jesuit stuff.
Well, you'll watch it because it's fascinating reading. I've read some books, I'll tell you about it. You and I
The
talked
fact there is
before.
considered peaceful inhabitants gives rise to correlating duty to ensure.
Wait, one more time. What was that?
Okay, we done?
Yeah.
Okay. The fact there was considered peaceful inhabitants gives rise to the correlating duty to ensure one is not peaceful one day and belligerent the next.
That's right.
It's right out of their law of belligerent occupation. These, by the way, the military manuals on this site, they are JAG manuals. They are required reading by JAG officers.
They're required reading by everybody in here.
In fact, it was part of a curriculum. Judge Advocate Generals of the United States Navy and Marine Corps. Okay. Also, Coast Guard is the key. Coast Guard is the one who defends the customs and the borders. And whoever is in control of Coast Guard is in control of the nation. Right now it's Homeland Security, which means Department of Transportation has some correlating duties with it. When war breaks out, Department of Navy takes over the Coast Guard. And this is right out of their own laws. And I know the Homeland Security is in operation of it right now based on what happened in New Jersey over the winter. New Jersey ran out of salt for the roads. The company that provides the salt for those roads has a mine in Maine where they get the salt. But they're a foreign corporation under foreign flag vessels. 1921 Jones Act says that only vessels flying the U.S. flag can operate between ports in the country. Foreign vessels cannot go in between U.S. ports. Which is why you have to have licenses. Because you're a foreign vessel until you accept what has been done. Because you're a foreigner with respect to the United States. The United States Corporation is a foreign corporation. The United States government is a foreign corporation with respect to a state. Corpus juris secundum, corporations, section 968, I believe it was. And in the next section, no state has any right to oppose its artificial creation on any sovereign entity.
Are you getting up to the driving?
Louder, please.
If we were to do the acceptance on a registration of a vehicle, can we ask them for some type of travel ID that they're minions?
They should have to produce that, because you're doing the acceptance on behalf of them as a citizen of the state.
Would you have to ask for it, or would they?
You probably, yeah, you ask for it.
Yeah.
You should have to give it to you.
That's what I told someone, and I thought I better ask them.
And under traveling, you have every right to come in without license or registrations or anything like that, because God made heavens above for himself and his saints, the earth below for man, and it was for the use by both the rich and the poor, and the roads are for their use, and he put no taxes on it. It's Book 2, Article 132, Law of Nations. Quote right out of the book. It's a result of a court case that happened in somewhere, I'm going to say, the Yugoslavia area around the 1600s, where some count was traveling on the roads, and some sheriff decided he didn't like it, so he's going to take all his stuff. And the count went to the guy who was in charge of the area and said, look, dude, I was just traveling on your roads. This dude took all my stuff, and I don't appreciate it, but I can go back because I'm just innocent. I just want innocent passage across your land. And it ended up that the one in charge of the lands gave all his stuff back to the count, and then punished the sheriff for doing it. Because everybody has right of innocent passage across any land mass whatsoever. And if there are threats, the one who's in control of it may require a surety, which you do based on the 1295A, to secure that innocent passage. And when you're done, they'll leave you alone. As long as anything you do in their land, you just give them the fruit of whatever you're going to do, and you can have all the innocent passage you want. There's no problem with that. I have no problem with them claiming ownership of this earth. Just don't deny me my right by divinity.
Be in the earth, not of the earth. Then.
Right. Just don't try and harness, try to hamper, control, or change, or restrain my rights. Because if you want me to respect yours, then you must first reciprocate, because equity must be given to be done.
Yeah, equity is paramount.
And all there is love and need love. So if you love all, then you'll get love in return. There's no question about it. But if you're going to sit there, if we're going to sit there and start picking it, start saying, well, I give everything but this, then you'll get everything but that. The thing that you wanted the most because you held on to it, you didn't let it go. So just like if you held on to a caterpillar in a cocoon and didn't let it go, it'd never become a butterfly. Just like that thing you're holding on to can never be what it's supposed to be in the universal scheme of things because you're holding on to it. You won't let it be. So just stop with the ownership and understand they claimed it. Ownership is just usufruct. That's all it is. They claimed ownership of the one thing you were given on this earth, a usufruct. In doing so, they freed you from the burden of it and created you as naked and then reformed you into a naked owner in their presence.
How does property taxes work going
The state
forward?
would pay that.
What's
Or
that?
the state or whoever owns that property would.
Okay.
If you're not the owner of the property, you're not going to pay it. The state has to, whoever owns the property. That's why I say, whenever they come for ownership of a mortgage, we don't fight the mortgage. We say, take the mortgage, we're going to keep possession because now you own the mortgage, you're not entitled to possession or legal title.
So do you send like the AOT assessor a copy of the UCC filing?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question. Could you just repeat that?
Do you send the county assessor a copy of the UCC filing?
Yeah. I mean, you can take the one your boyfriend got there and use that one, the one that he pulled up, because that one shows that everybody's already been pledged. Why do I have to pay any taxes? I've already paid. I've already pledged. You don't need any paperwork whatsoever. You can send that in that he's got. You just acceptances. The acceptance, it kills them. kills all controversy.
So you can't get away from property taxes if you own the property?
No, you don't own the property. You revert it to someone else. You do not want ownership of the property. Your name may own it. That agency, but that agency is an agency of the United States, and it reverts all interest to the United States. Therefore, now the United States, quote, owns the property. You use it as the estate in the agency, because you have interests in property, you have agency, you have interest in agency that you're acquiring interest through because you never get paid for anything.
Exactly.
So all you get are interest in stuff. You have your interests, which are your any interest. The reversion goes off to the United States.
And you
So
have
therefore,
possession,
anything you do, energy-wise, always has a chance to reflect back to you. You don't want anything to reflect back because you want the glory to go to all around you, not any of it coming back to
Sweat
you.
equity. That's
Yeah.
a claim of sweat equity.
Right.
There's only 3 people in North America, or United States of America, that have filed sweat equity claims. One was Sean, one was CD up in Oregon, and one was the pastor up there, and all 3 of them were taxed by the IRS.
Yes. Because labor is not the article of commerce.
That's right.
So you don't do your sweat equity, you do your time. Time is the only commodity you have on this planet that's limited.
the only non-renewable resource.
That's right, that's the only non-renewable resource. When you're done here, you are done. Everything else on this planet will regenerate by nature itself. Lightning strikes, bringing all the essential elements to wherever it hits. It will rejuvenate the land by itself. We do not need to do it because we can't destroy this earth. We can only make it a living hell for ourselves.
Or a heaven.
Or you can make it into a heaven.
Yep.
And that's where we're at. This
That's
is
where
the
we're going.
crossroads we're at. What are we going to have? Are we going to have this crap that's being forced down our throat? Or are we going to stand up and understand that we will not be beaten down?
The path is done, we just gotta go down it.
Yeah, it's done. You will not be beaten down
The
anymore.
path of the peaceful inhabitant.
Chains will want, chains will break.
So when it comes to the mortgage, what exactly are you assigning to the government? Is it the mortgage itself,
The proceeds, products, and profits from the mortgage that happen, that arrive.
and now you just do that like as a statement you're making?
Yeah, what we do is we went in and reformed the trust.
Okay.
Because you're the grantor and there's a defect in it. So to cure the defect, you reform the trust. And all you really do is just put it in there as an amendment.
So you're just
So you just assign the interest over to cure the defect.
Now, the courts are ignoring that, so we're gonna need to probably do a mandatory judicial notice.
Right.
And let him know what his penalty is gonna be if he trespasses
You
on
let
it.
him know.
Does he want to go across the alligator mode at this
If
point?
he wants to.
Oh my God, the guy's got to be,
So what you do is you do the reverse, you put it in the county as an attachment to that deed, because you are the grantor of it.
To like the warranty deed or the grant deed or
Just the
whatever?
grant deed, whatever deed you need, whatever usually they foreclose on, I don't know what they usually foreclose on. I usually just tell people, if the trust that's in the county, reform it.
But
You're a
see-
grantor and there's a defect.
See, they don't foreclose on the warranty deed, they foreclose on the mortgage.
The warranty
So it's the
deed
mortgage deed?
is indemnifying the former seller because there's a defect in
Right.
something. And if there's a warranty deed in place there, that shows that filing of that warranty deed on the public record, it's got a defect in it right off the chute. Right? They're trying to indemnify themselves by the so-called disclosure of the warranty deed on the record, when in fact it's basically saying, there's a problem with this warranty deed.
Yeah, that's what you do. You come in and fix that issue. Now when they go and claim against the mortgage, because it's a probate matter and recovery, it's a U.S. asset now. You acquired on behalf of the United States. I don't care if they have a mortgage on it or not. That's just their profit.
So you're basically, so you got this warranty deed that they transfer the property to your, not your name, but the name.
Right.
That doesn't belong to you.
The agency.
Right, the agency. So really all you're doing is notifying them that that name belongs to the United States. I'm just
Correct.
changing it.
Correct. There you go.
Okay, so then you would attach it to the warrant.
Correct.
I was
And you
talking
acquire
to
the
somebody
property
earlier.
on behalf of
It's
the
like
United
Christopher
States.
Columbus, all right? When he discovered America, did he claim it for himself or the state and the Vatican? State and the Vatican, and that's how we have it. That name is a vessel through commerce that we're acquiring for the United States.
Correct.
That's kind of their. And what did he have on his mast or his sails? He had the nice Templar cross. They're telling us how to play the game, basically.
So the mortgager still has the right of possession, but the mortgager is the name.
The
That
the
is
mortgage-
now the responsibility of the
Correct, and the
United
mortgagee
States.
is now just holding an investment contract that had already got paid on
And
by
any
Fannie Mae and Fannie
liability,
Mae.
like property taxes or house insurance or anything, gets assigned also to the United States.
Correct, it also goes all with it because that's part of that interest. They have to protect the estate from waste. So to do so, they come in and settle all the time.
Once you understand the name and that that's what's tied to everything.
not yours.
and
Yes.
it's
If
not
you say it's yours,
and
then you
just
got
get
the
to use
liability.
it.
If you give it to the
Yeah.
true owner, then they have to take it.
Let them have it back.
It's a fraud, because it's a commonly used name.
See, that's, give Caesar what is Caesar's, and it's all over.
You know, remember, they gave you this, that when they put you into government school, what did they do every single morning? They didn't, when you went to the school, they didn't register you for first grade. You had to go in with the what? The hat check ticket, the birth certificate.
Roll call.
That birth certificate was what went to school. Now what did they do for the next 12 years? They called the name on the birth certificate and they brainwashed you to do what? Here! They trained you to be that name. We've got to unthink that and back that up again.
All right, it doesn't matter if they're using the name or you use it, because the fact is you assign the reversion. It's irrelevant at that point now.
Right.
Because if they're gonna call you the name, okay, that name has been equated to discharge, what do you got next?
That's the big thing, is just getting ourselves to realize that we're just using the name. That is not, that's not me. That name isn't me.
You're even using it since the day you were born. You're not the only using it.
Yeah, when I went into the shrink one time because they wanted to do an analysis to see if, about incompetence, and I went in there and said, "So did you see your attorney?" I said, "What do you mean my attorney?" "Well, for your case." "Well, what do you mean my case?" "Well, you know, with this case, State versus Heaven, you know." I said, "You mean that's my name? That's me?" And she goes, "Why, of course it is." I said, "Wait, can I be something? Can I use something? If I use that name, does that mean it's me?" I said, "Absolutely." She said, "Absolutely." I said, "Well, so if I use a football, that makes me football?" She says, "I think our meeting today is over."
No football today?
I've
The
been
birth certificate
contemplating
did
the
not come out of my
idea,
mother's vagina.
I've been contemplating the idea of copywriting my name and image.
Okay.
Now, if I say I'm so-and-so, what's the government going to do? They come back and going to say, "No, you're not so-and-so. We own that so-and-so. We own that name." But they're in a position that, how can they
See,
ever
if
come?
you're gonna do copyright on that shit, you don't come in as yourself. What I'm showing you guys, you don't come in as you. You come in as the executor of a damn estate.
So you create an estate first?
No, you come in an estate that has an interest.
A natural estate.
INP.
Interest, any interest.
You're separating yourself from the token in the game of Monopoly. Otherwise, they're telling you you're the token that gets to do the game.
Right.
Interest
You go
equals
back in the box
estate.
at the end of the day.
Right.
That's it. There are no other there's no other thing that is estate other than interest. Corpus juris secundum estates. The first sentence. The second sentence is the use of product is the right to profit from property that doesn't belong to you. So when you're out there using that name for private profit and gain, you're the use of fraud.
Yep.
If you're going to use it on behalf to support the public interest, the public side of everything, you're not the use of fraud.
Well,
These estates operate in accordance to the rules of use of fraud.
There's another way to do it and turn around. Instead of doing it this way, why not? What I've done is gone into the Secretary of State's office and filed a fictitious business name statement, making the United States the owner of the name on record.
Yeah.
Isn't
Pretty
Think about what happens there.
Yeah.
They own the name.
legal entity?
Show that in court somewhere. That hey, I don't own it. The United States.
They do, don't they?
Yeah, but it's just another piece of the record to show.
You're just kind of saying it, you're just putting it on record.
I'm just getting it more on the record. It's all here. There's multiple witnesses all over the place.
But what would they say if you went in the name that they use for your estate?
Yeah,
If you went in and copywrote it and copyrighted your image,
The woman.
and if you
the
sued
man,
them or
is a
whatever,
foreigner
how
in
can
your
they challenge
goddamn
it?
land.
Because then they got to admit it.
Because they have a superior claim at birth.
So when we
You're gonna-
Yeah, I'm coming in now with, I have an inferior claim.
in that
Now, a
state.
friend of ours, Tim, did that, and he put on his UCC that I released so many millions for using it.
No, you do
And what
not.
happened, he got,
They
he
cannot,
had a
remember,
little gig in St. Louis, they got all of it.
the rule of thumb is, they cannot impose an artificial creature upon another
Okay, all right, all right.
sovereign. Hey guys, quiet. They cannot impose an artificial creature on another sovereign entity. You are a sovereign entity. You came from above. You did not, are you a creation of the state? Did the state create you? This name, y'all keep looking
The
at.
flesh and blood. I'm looking at you. That was it.
All right.
Creation.
And then, have y'all seen the movie Braveheart?
Yes.
In the first battle scene, what was the negotiation? What was the offer to the Scottish nobles for withdrawing from this battle here today?
Lands and estates.
Lands in Scotland and matching estates in England. What you were given is an estate in the Union and a matching estate in the United States called an agency. That's what you were given. It is not you. You were not registered. The Vital Statistics has yelled and screamed at me about this one many times. The people were never registered.
No, and just an event,
Okay, the event was, so they gave you an agency.
Earth event.
Event and issue.
In the U.S. with a matching estate in the Union. That's what they gave you. That's a result of the hospitality. This is the result of the registration of the birth event. You are not that damn name. This is part of the whole illusion that they keep saying. What is your name? I was given an agency and an estate. I wasn't given a name. My name is in my Creator's book, and I won't know until I meet Him.
That name did not come out of my mom's vagina.
All right? They called, whatever they called you, they didn't call you. They called the infant.
Yeah,
This
they got
is
her
the
to sign it.
infant. All right? The reason the infant
Informant.
exists, the infant exists as a result of the protections of the nation. They put the infant in place to protect the agency and the assets of the nation from being taken from foreigners, because if you intermeddle in the affairs of an infant without authority, you will be held accountable.
No.
You will. There is no shall, may, or whatever. You will be held accountable.
Yep.
The infant is the agency and its estate, its interests in the
What is
union.
that?
Because of the birth record, they created an infant, but mom never knew about it. This is what they created. They did it as part of their protectionary mechanism under the law of nations to ensure the properties would not be taken away anymore by the wealthy capitalists coming in here from the foreign nations to buy up all this shit.
Isn't that 521 something on the interfering with the infant?
That's right out of the States.
Yes,
Trading with the enemy act?
I don't know what it is, but,
Yeah, it's not I'm talking about the agency of the.
and the agency in the United States. Yeah, but that's not you. That's not
That's
you.
not the legal entity. I'm talking
Right,
about-
but you don't become the legal entity.
No, artificial.
You operate through it.
The capitalized thing.
You operate through it. It's not you. You operate through it.
Right.
It's a transmitting utility for your energy to get to them and the stuff they're holding to get to you.
So then, actually, in this foreign sovereign immunity act, okay, basically says, the legal entity was registered, like the trading state. It's an agency becoming a foreign state.
Yes.
So now, it says on the section 1608, it says, if somebody's gonna take an action against the foreign state, they have to serve to the Secretary of State,
Correct.
right?
And we're all foreigners.
But see, now here's what happens when you apply for any benefit or privilege, i.e. the driver's license. You agree by consent to have service of process to that name at that address. So what you do right there is you nullify the foreign sovereign.
And then once you did that, all you have to do then is turn around and give it and send it over to the U.S. Treasury to cancel that debt. You just got, all it was is we added an extra step to it by getting in the way. We got in our own way.
Yep.
And
You
know,
broke the
actually,
circuit.
Yeah.
I study Pennsylvania Vehicle Code, okay? One of the sections says,
You do it to
if you
ourselves.
express that you don't need a driver license, you are exempt.
Yes.
So with that.
You don't need
Well,
to.
driving is a commercial term, it's commerce.
Channel
Traffic is commerce.
Every state has that, Texas, California,
Yeah,
that you
because
don't
they
even
all
go.
have that. They have,
Right,
they have to
yeah.
they have to give the men and women the right to choose.
But
They
tell,
cannot alter free will and choice. They can do anything else to entice you. They can lie, cheat, steal, deceive, kidnap, do everything else. They cannot choose your free will. You do not have to capitulate to them just because they're not stopping or they're not doing something. All right? Just because they don't, doesn't mean that they're right, doesn't mean that you're wrong. What it means is they're just not adhering to the contract. So you adhere to the contract because you remain in honor at all times. It is maxim of law. It is better to suffer indignities than consent. All right? It's better to suffer any indignity than it is to consent to something that's bullshit.
Then it's interesting that, I expressed that, and then Secretaries, U.S. Transportation and Pennsylvania's Transportation, they got my document. I expressed that. Okay, so now I'm saying I do not need driver license, right? So I noticed then, give me 30 days, if you don't answer, then I have a right to use this plate. And I even put it in an affidavit and send it to them, and then I started traveling with this plate. Now police pulls over, the driver license is still in effect.
Did you put a bond with it?
Huh?
Did you put a bond with it?
No.
If you're going to do stuff like that, put a bond with it.
So then basically, I did not carry the driver license that day, and I gave them my affidavit. Okay, I expressed that I'm not a driver, I'm not doing transport, da 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 da. And he said, he went into NCI system and pulled over a social security number in the legal fiction. And then he told me to sign this ticket. And I said,
All right, Social Security, you can use the Social Security number to get a tax exempt trust on the SS4 really easy. If you put down grantor trust for the type of trust, you only have to fill out 5 lines. Read the instructions. They'll tell you exactly what to do. When you get that EIN number, my buddy Odie found this out. Social Security number, driver's license, everything else gets dumped into a trust and disappears from record. His mom, he did it for his mom. His mom has nothing else filed, understands what's going on. Did nothing else. They did the SS4 on his mom gets pulled over. She gave him the license. They went back to the mirror and said, sorry, we can't find this, have a nice day.
Yeah.
He himself did it, and he was at a hotel, at the next door to the hotel. They had to use Wi-Fi because the hotels wouldn't have it. So he's out hanging out by the car wash at like midnight. Cop pulls up, starts harassing him, and he gave him the name, Social Security number, driver's license number, address, his previous address, his previous address, and a whole host of other information. Cop's like, calls it in, says it, he goes, no record found. Calls everything, no record found, no record found. Dude's livid as hell, he's getting ready to arrest him. His sister pulls up with his passport, and he gives it to the cop. The cop goes, oh, you really are him. Have a nice day.
Oh, U.S. national.
All right, when you get your EIN numbers through the Social Security SS4, what we know is that it dumps everything into that trust. You get a tax exempt ID number. It's a domestic trust. You can take an 8832 and elect to disregard it as a foreign trust if you really wish to. It doesn't matter anymore because the trust itself, when you set this up, is going to be the one that does all the work. It's going to be the one that's going to be absolved. Your names will be absolved. You'll set this up where the estate you have, you put interest into it, you put all your interest, any kind of interest in any kind of property go into it via the Transfer of Minors Act. Then anything reversion comes out of it, you give over to the United States according to 12 U.S.C. 95A. All the rights you put into the trust because you're the protector of your own rights. And you're also ensuring that the beneficiaries get everything they got. So now somebody who ever comes up and makes a claim has to prove what security they put up to initiate to secure their interest for transfer of right to this property. And that's your protectionary mechanism. You create it yourself. Your enforcement comes from here, not from out here. And if you need to bring in aid, There is an organization that has been set up that you have a contract with to bring that aid to you when you need it. But only when you need it. And you have to know how to talk with it, because it is fully interactive. And it is very nervous and very sketchy.
That's DOT?
Huh? That's about the United States. Very paranoid, thinks everybody's out to get it. Everybody's out to get the United States. Well, because everybody's been taken from it since its inception. It's just like man. It's been put under chains since its been inception. It has never been fully allowed to be free. And that's why I said it's the physical manifestation of your spiritual input. Yes?
Actually, she wanted that. I have a question. So you have your tax exempt trust with your EIN number. What's keeping the IRS from putting all kinds of levies all over that?
Can you speak a little louder?
For the camera here.
So
Thank
you
you.
have your trust. What is that you've created? What's keeping the IRS from putting all kinds of levies all over that trust with all of your interest in it?
Because they better have a damn good reading for administration of a trust under 15.1. It's called antitrust. They're not allowed to use any trust or artifice to interfere with any commerce or activity of contract you have. They did that to counteract Rockefeller and Nelson and all those robber oil barons who were coming in and taking over control of the nation and stopping everybody else from even attempting to compete with them. Even the thought of competing with them was done. And when they had to come in, and now the people are being restrained in their trade because of the oligarchs. They came in and made so much, it took over so much at the time, it left them in virtual control of the country. They had to get rid of that, so they did an antitrust, where now nobody can use any trust or any contract or any combination thereof to impede contracts or commerce between us and anybody else.
Also, what's happening when the IRS goes after a trust, what they're doing is they're making the conclusive presumption that it's nothing more than a nominee and an alter ego. That's all they're doing.
Right.
They will actually say that. We've determined it's nothing more than a nominee and an alter ego. Therefore, it's this tax to do, blah, blah, blah. Then they'll file a notice of tax lien.
Yeah.
A notice of tax lien isn't a tax lien. Now, I'm sorry, what?
Counties are treating them like a lien.
No.
Well, Douglas County up in Oregon's not, Jefferson County's not. I mean, it's coming across.
I've got liens on everything I own.
But you have a
Do you own
requirement to
anything?
refund that.
Wait, I need to know that.
I know. I've heard of simple tricks to get rid of the IRS liens is that you record and register the lien because they didn't, and then you cancel it and send it to the IRS.
Or you get certified copies of it and send it to Lou.
Yeah, you can do that. But I have heard of people putting on a UCC-1 and registering the lien themselves because the IRS failed to do so, and then doing a cancellation of it from the UCC record that cancels out the lien.
But I was waiting for an answer. Do you own anything?
Well, no.
Okay.
Whatever's in my name.
Your name? Whose name?
It'll register tonight.
Yeah, it's just when you start understanding, you get creative with what you're doing. All right, you get creative with it, it becomes yours, you let your imagination flow, because now you're coming at it like a child. A child comes at something with imagination unbounded, creativity unrestrained. That's what it means to come as a child. And that's how you come with the United States. You come to them as a child, they'll protect you. You can't act all smart and like you know everything. Because they're not going to handle us. They're not out for haughtiness. They're doing everything they can to protect this nation from us.
I have a question for Jim. Is there, now that you went through everything you went through in the court and you know, didn't want to give the judge your name, the name or whatever, well, how would you do it now differently? Or would you still do it the same way?
I'd probably do it. I mean, I get some other clever answers that I'd throw in there. It's hard to say because here's the thing. Whatever you do, don't go in with a script. The judges and everybody in there, they are masters of you're standing on a script. They will turn you around on yourself and tie knots in you. You got to go in and internalize this, and it's got to come from the heart. I even to a point where I've had notes. I got to a point where I didn't trust my heart enough, and I'd go with notes, and they would get me to fumble on it, right? The best way to do it is clear my mind and know in my heart of hearts I know who I am and I know what I'm not. And then they can come at me however they want and they can't get me off my one rock. I have one rock that I stand on. I don't care about all the other shifting sands. They can't get me to come off my rock. And all I'll do is I'll answer questions. If they come with me with a question, I'll stay in honor by just responding with questions, but all my questions point to the rock I'm standing on. So they can try to distract me this, that way, and the other, and I'll go back to the name. And it's usually right about the name. And I know in my heart of hearts that I'm not doing this to get away with any cute tricks or get away with not paying taxes or get away with licenses. It's not about that, because if I'm doing that, then my intention isn't pure. So what would I do differently? I'd have no notes. I did a lot better because I went in there with notes, and what happened? I spent a couple nights in jail.
So you feel that if you didn't, I guess the main question is how would you address this?
Mandatory judicial notice.
Mandatory judicial notice. And you know what? And at this point, look, understand this. Understand this. I'm now firmly aware that going into court is a mistake at all times. Remember, every judge, every attorney, everybody in there, they didn't take an oath to help you out or do anything. They're there to protect the illusion that their court is legitimate, and they want everybody in there to believe it's legitimate, and they're being watched by their bosses through those cameras, that they're responding properly, and it's all a big illusion. If I go in there and I start to peel back the curtain and show that the wizard is really just an old fuddy-duddy behind the curtain, they are going to do whatever it can and put me in jail. They don't care what it is. They've got to protect their illusion at all costs. I don't belong. The remedy I seek won't happen in a public arena. They've got to do their song and dance, and that's a show. And that only involves a persona, a mask. That's not where I'm at. So everything I'm doing, the remedy that I seek, and that the remedy that I'm coming for, happens on the private side. And it manifests in the public side by having no case, or whatever they do. They do their little dance, cover it up, and it kind of evaporates and disappears. That's what happens with the public. What's that?
What if you have a summons to
So?
I accept the summons. They're sending a summons to the name what? They're summonsing who?
The name.
James Bernard Hebben, perhaps, in all capital letters? Are they summonsing me? Or are they bringing a claim against government property? Maybe I should just accept it for honor, endorse it, and send it on to the Treasury.
And then send a copy of that to the court?
Send it, let them take care. It's not my business. I don't own that name.
Send them a copy of the birth certificate.
Would you send a copy of that to
We'll
the
go through all
court?
that tomorrow.
We'll go through that tomorrow.
We're gonna cut this, today.
Just go through the process.
We'll do
that
this
I
all
did. I'm
tomorrow.
like, I
We'll
was
all
facing 60 days in jail. All right, they don't want to even deal with it.
Yeah.
It's a great little deal there.
Go ahead, Board.
How long ago?
Yeah, we're gonna cut this off today. We'll pick it up tomorrow. with-
I don't even think I was gonna be here.
It's all just
All
The
day that I found this
procedures and the processes that we do.
You just,
All right.
that's free. It's just a process.